Hey folks, Bill Swift, and we have Paddler High now after paddling this beautiful prototype. This boat came across by a really cool means, and our designer, David Yost, has built this prototype shape with his son, Carl. Terry actually helped strip the boat for a day. Now, Jeremy and Terry, you guys both have had a lot of success with the 16.8 cruiser. So, Jeremy, tell the folks what you did with the 16.8 this summer.
Sure. So I actually got the 16.8 in March. So this is my first full season with it. I've loved it. And in July, I raced the ARC 120, which is, it happens just before the Asable River Canoe Marathon. And this year I got second. There was a surf ski about an hour in front of me, but I covered that 120 miles in 19 hours and 8 minutes. And I was the fastest solo canoe in the race, and actually was about 2 hours faster than the fastest solo canoe in the history of the race. The 16.8 was just spectacular in that race. Really great boat. But I think it could be a little bit faster. So, yeah, that's where we are today.
Okay, and this is a childhood friend of mine, Terry Kent. And Terry, you've been using a 16.8 cruiser for a number of years now, and tell the folks about the 90-mile race and your success with it.
Well, I've raced this ever since it came into production at the Adirondack 90-miler. What I love about racing this boat, the 90-milers, I get to race all the Epic 18 kayaks out there. And unbelievably, the 16.8, which is 29 inches wide, is fast enough to keep up with those little skinny kayaks. And one year I beat them all. The last time I raced it, I got all of them but one. And it's just such an awesome boat. And you think about the 90-miler, you get a variety of conditions from dead flat water, calm lakes, to big lakes with big waves. And then in Brown's Track, you've got the windiest, twistiest little swamp creek you've ever seen. And the leaning ability, the turn ability of the 16.8 really shines there. It's so much fun.
Now, what I love about the setup on your 16.8 is you've developed that super cool wheel that inserts right into the back of it. And I know the 90 has a lot of portages.
5.5 miles of portaging. And no one would accuse me of being a runner. And I would watch, I was racing with the kayaks, I'd watch them hit the first portage, and they've had these little strap-on carts. And they'd spend their time strapping them on, then they'd go up the first hill, and the thing would slide off the back. And so with the help of Charlie Wilson, another icon in the industry, he helped me design a wheelie that slides into a receiver in the back of the canoe. And even though I'm not a runner, I was running away from the competition.
Nice. Now, Jeremy, I love the outfitting on your 16.8. We put a C-line rudder on and you customized it.
Yeah.
And why a rudder for the races you do and the types of paddling you do?
Well, actually, in some races, I wouldn't use a rudder. In others, I certainly would. The rudder is not there to help me turn. It's there to help me go straight, and it's there to let me make my huts based on fatigue rather than based on directional control. So if I'm out in really heavy wind and the boat's constantly weathercocking to the right, I don't get stuck paddling on the right to maintain control of the boat. I can hut based on fatigue, and the rudder takes care of that wind correction for me. Same thing in really rough water. If I'm out on Lake Superior and big waves, the rudder's advantageous because I don't have to hut to control the direction of the boat. I can hut based on stability. So I spend more time on the side with the braking white caps, so it's easy to low brace into those. There are a lot of benefits to it. There's a reason that everybody who wins the MR 340 or the Alabama 650 or the Mississippi River 120 or the Texas Water Safari, those people all have rudders. There's a reason that all of the ultra distance paddlers use rudders. It adds about 2% to 3% drag to the boat, but it also removes all of your corrective strokes for steering, and it lets you hut based on fatigue. So it's pretty advantageous.
So let's let folks know what hut is.
Oh, when you switch sides. Sorry. Yeah, switching sides. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're in a two-person boat, the person in the back says hut. Both paddlers switch sides simultaneously. So when you're in a solo boat, I've, from time to time in a race, been in a solo race, and I'll say it.
I do it all the time. Yep. I yell hut to myself all the time. Mm-hmm.
Now, Terry, you came to DY and I this summer and said that you feel there's a real emerging market of racers doing these longer races and fitness paddling.
Well, I met Jeremy at Canoecopia this last March, and I just was struck by how many in addition to Jeremy, how many paddlers were coming up to me and saying, I'm doing, I don't know, this super long distance race on the Missouri, this super long distance race in the Mississippi, up in the Yukon. And the problem is our marathon racing canoes, it's not a good, it's a fast boat, but it's not a good boat for a real adventure race, right? Where you're out in rough water.
Wind and waves.
It'd be scary, frankly. And the 16.8 is a great boat, but I felt like there could be a little bit more that DY could offer us.
So let's talk about this then. So let's tell the folks what you asked DY to do.
Well, you know, in my mind, the hardest thing about the 16.8, what I love about the 16.8, it's got tons of volume, right? It's good in rough water, but that volume also translates into a wide paddling station. So I want him to narrow the boat up. And as long as we're changing things, let's make it a little longer, get a little more, boat speed. And so we talked to David about that, and he had some ideas. And here it is, and the boat is just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this. So DY went and drew the boat. He designed it, so he made it a foot longer. It's a 17.8. And DY, I believe it's 2.5 inches narrower. And then let the folks know what Terry wanted about in terms of the width and so on and performance.
Well, we kind of talked about it. Originally, I was going to do the shouldered boat like the cruisers, but that raised the shoulder up to interfere with the paddling, so it kind of came counterproductive. So I kept the original shoulder shape from the 16.8 and went 2.5 inches narrower, brought the boat down to 27 inches. So he wanted to keep the volume in the ends. So the first time through, the first three back stations are the same as the 16.8, and we skinnied it up in the middle. Got it all off and looked at it, and so I called Terry up and said, "Are the gunnels?" Here's what I did: "Are the gunnels going to be narrow enough?" Because I don't know. I'm going to go. I'll get the boat and go paddle it. He went and paddled and came back. A couple hours later, and called me. Now I want the gunnels narrower.
And you're talking about his 16.8.
Yeah.
You asked him to paddle his 16.8. Yeah. Let me know what the width of the gunnels felt like.
So I have 3 inches of tumble holes right here where your paddle goes in the water, which is about as much as you can put in and not have the boat collapse and keep the shape far enough on the side. And I lofted it all out, and I had 3 inches at the widest point and carried it into the back. And I looked at the back was pretty tight. So I went to 2.5 inches at here and opened the back up and put a bigger blow nose on it. So Sewer, the head laminator, would be using my name as a 4-letter word, trying to laminate the back of the boat. And so it went through those 3 evolutions, and then we built it.
You built the prototype, Terry. You went and helped strip the boat for the day with Carl and DY. And how was that experience?
Well, I'm really there as labor. Let's put it that way.
You hold the strips.
I was just there to do whatever they needed, and it was really fun to get to play a small role in the building of the boat.
Now, so DY finished the plug with Carl. Carl did a lot of work.
Did stuff it.
We brought it to the factory, and our head assembler, Terry Petty, developed a neat way for us to try the seat at different height positions. And guys, we've paddled it now. Mm-hmm. So, Jeremy, why don't you start? What are your impressions of the 17.8?
It seems to have all of the same positive characteristics of the 16.8, but it has, in the 16.8, the way drag curves work in a boat, you get up to a certain speed and then you start to climb your own bow wave, and it kind of feels like you're hitting a wall. And the 16.8 is a fast boat, but you feel that wall. And if you have the power to cruise through it, you can push it pretty hard, but there's definitely a limit. You can feel the boat resisting you because it doesn't want to go up that bow wave. And it took about 10 paddle strokes in this boat to realize that it didn't have that wall. Obviously, there is a wall. You can't paddle it at 20 miles an hour, but it is a notably better glide. It has phenomenal acceleration. The amount of effort when Terry and I were cruising next to each other in one of us was in this boat, the other was in their own 16.8. I have no doubt that the person that was in this boat was working less hard to go the same speed. And if you want to paddle a 340-mile race, paddling less hard to go the same speed is the name of the game. It just seems spectacular. And it has responsiveness in terms of edging that's almost like a sea kayak. You can put it on edge and it just parks itself there and it will carve a beautiful turn. And then to get out of that carve, you just lay the boat flat, take a couple of strokes on the other side, the stern grabs again, and you're off on your straight line. It just has beautiful handling characteristics.
Terry, do you want to add to that?
Oh my gosh, Ed. Yeah, it's really fun. The reason I love this boat is I've had a life full of race boats, and race boats are always taken to an extreme in one dimension at the sacrifice of others. So I would never take a lot of my race boats in open water. And this one, I would have no problem taking it out in 2 or 3 foot swells in an open lake. It's got a lot of seaworthiness to it. DY kept the flared out bow and the flared out stern. So I know I'm going to be safe out there. And yet I feel like the speed and glide of my marathon racing C1, which is really nice. I love the pulled in station, and it's very comfortable to get your paddle in the water. Yet it's not tippy. It's not a skinny little thing that you're going to flip over in. And then what Jeremy's talking about of how it edging like a sea kayak, I've personally never experienced. I'm not a sea kayaker. And it's almost like you have 3 level settings. You've got flat, and you say, I want to turn, and you go boom. And it parks itself at an angle that is perfect for edging, and the back end just cuts loose. And I can turn this thing faster than I can my 12'6" Kawasa kayak. It just rips around, which is super fun for a racer to have that type of responsiveness out of a boat.
Nice. So what do we want to say to DY now?
Oh, thank you. Well done.
Maybe we
I say
should
you're welcome.
we should do the America's Got Talent and say, should this boat go into production? And I'll be the first yes.
Yeah, that's a second yes for me. Absolutely.
4 yeses. We've got 4 yeses, and you know what? I feel like this should get the golden buzzer. I absolutely love this boat.
Yeah.
I paddled it. DY wanted me to wait until the 2 of you were up, but I had to sneak out, and I actually messaged Terry to get approval for this.
Said, heck yeah, go get it.
2 days ago, I had it in some significant whitecaps in Algonquin, and it was just so solid. I feel it's as solid or more solid than the 16.8, even though it's 2.5 inches skinnier. It's an incredible boat. So this baby is going to be in production, the Cruiser 17.8 in 2025. So,
And if you like the 16.8, I think you're really going to like the 17.8.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you guys, DY. Thank you again for another beautiful design. And for you guys coming from Marquette, Michigan, and Ithaca, New York, up here to South River in Ontario, thank you. And what a
Our
great
pleasure.
Yeah.
This has been fun. We're going to do it every year. Cheers.
Okay.
Let's do it 2 months earlier.